terrified should Keir Starmer be? Now, the Green Party are having a bit of a moment. I'm here at their conference in Bournemouth. They've got this new leader, Zach Polansky. I think it's fair to say he's cutting through, he's making waves. He's got a bit of a phenomenon attached to him. Now, this is definitely a party that feels that the wind is blowing in their direction. It's all been about reform, hasn't it? Nigel Farage, he's been presented as the kind of anti-establishment insurgent force. I don't think that's based in reality, but the Greens have struggled to kind of have that same cut through it, anything like it. It doesn't help with the media, it doesn't give you the same attention or anything like it. Is that going to change? Now, I'm here to speak to the new leader, I'm here to speak to activists, and I want to find out, is the Green Party now going to start replacing the Labour Party as the progressive party in Britain?
I left the Labour Party last year.
I can't support a party that no longer represents the values that were important to me and my family.
I became politically homeless, and then now I found a home.
We are moving into a multi-party system, and people are realising that you don't have to choose between bad and worse.
This country voted in a party with a massive majority and a mandate for change. And all we've seen, I see a lot of the time, is them kowtowing to the far right. And this causes me enormous, concern, because aside from being a student of natural history, I'm a student of history, and I know what happened in the middle of the last century.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't great, was it? And there are clear parallels between some of the processes that were undertaken by political parties and their manoeuvring at that point that I'm seeing now. And that, without ambiguity, is a fact. The playbook is very similar. And therefore, look, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, but I'm frightened, and I get more scared every single day.
The level of distrust and disgust in the population is like nothing I've really ever seen before, which is actually really dangerous and really scary. And so I think it's so important that there is a voice out there that's offering some hope and some solutions and isn't afraid to say what it thinks. And that's, whatever you say about Zach, he's not afraid to say what he thinks. And that's great right now, because the image people have of politicians is that they mould their language to whatever they think you want them to say. And I think there's just an appetite now for authentic politics, and that's what the Green Party is about. So I think this is here to stay, I reckon.
You stood to be leader, and obviously Zach won.
Yeah.
How
does it feel to lose?
No, I know, it feels like I'm not trying to...
Politics, you win some, you lose some, right?
It's brutal politics.
Somebody said to me yesterday, a journalist kind of said to me yesterday, having lost so comprehensively to Zach, does it make you feel you should be more like Zach?
Do you want to be more like Zach?
You've got to be yourself.
No, I know, of course.
In politics, I mean, that's totally my answer. I
guess
great. Good for Zach. He did a brilliant job. He ran a brilliant campaign. Fantastic.
What's your analysis? Why did he win in the way he did?
Well, people like what he's got to offer. That's great. I mean, it's absolutely fine. I've got plenty of work to do with what I'm doing. He's doing an absolutely grand job leading the party. I mean, the energy here today, all of these huge numbers of new members, like 1,000 extra people a day, something like that. It's fantastic. It's all for celebrating.
Is there a tension in the Green Party? Because we'll see. Well, we'll find out. No, but it's an interesting one. I don't mean on a personal level, but because you and Adrian Ramsey won seats which were Tory and they're rural seats.
Yeah.
And 39 target seats for the Green Party are kind of Labour-y, urban-y seats. And
you're making an assumption there.
What's the assumption?
About our target seats. What you mean is we had 39 second places where Labour was first.
Yes.
They're not necessarily going to be our target seats.
Right.
So obviously loads of them we did great. But I came from fourth to win a resounding victory in North Herefordshire. So it's not the case of we only look at the places where we came second and they're the ones where we think we can come first next time. So just kind of that point. And also, there's a really interesting point, I can't remember who it was that was making it, but kind of saying, there's only a handful of seats that have got the same demographics as kind of Brighton and Bristol, and there's shed loads of seats that have got similar demographics to Waveney and North Herefordshire. So this whole idea of, we're a party that has to choose between only focusing on urban Labour-facing seats versus rural Conservative seats. I mean, we just happen to have won two of one sort and two of another sort. But they're not the only types of seats available in the country either. So we've got to be broader. We've got to be more diverse. We've got to have a slightly less binary view of politics, I think.
I've lived in poverty. I've lived knowing hunger. I remember having to ration milk in our house so my brothers and sisters could have enough milk for the cereal. I've experienced homelessness. And we thought we'd made it when we got into a council house. Your enemies aren't other poor people. Your enemies are those that extract wealth from our society to fill their coffers. I think the powerful message that it sends, that we've got a Jewish leader who's openly gay, we've got a devout Muslim, we've got a feminist who was a child of the church, you know, 3 different people with 3 different stories. We've come from different backgrounds, we look very different, we sound very different, but our stories, there's so much that is common amongst us, and our struggles are so common, and we're fighting for the same thing. I think it just symbolises this country perfectly. You know, it's a melting pot of different cultures, different voices, different class, everything coming together, and that's what we're trying to build, a nice, cohesive society.
Yeah, I mean, about class, because a lot of people go, well, the Greens will just be seen as quite a middle-class party, but, you know, you represent a working-class community. Tell me, is that changing?
My dad worked in the steel mills. Before I was born, during the miners' strikes, the steel workers used to leave the factories and go stand on the picket lines with the miners, and my dad was involved with that. So there's, that trade union movement, that worker solidarity movement runs in my blood. If you look at even our history of the Green Party, it used to be called the People's Party. You know, people have always been at the focus, but I think what we've lacked in the past is that working class voice and that cut through in working class communities. But I think there's the willingness to engage, and especially with my election as well, it's a symbolic move, do you know? You've got a proper working class Yorkshire lad who's now a deputy leader in the Green Party. I think it's powerful.
A big focus of my role as deputy, Zach's changing the narrative on the national stage, cutting through. I need to also be outward facing, but also help the whole party equip itself to win, which means media training, making sure key messaging briefings go through the party, helping people get their social media better,
well, I was going to say,
fundraising.
The Green social media has been, I'm just going to say, it's been mostly rubbish.
Oh, really bad. No, I mean, really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing. So, we're in Sussex. Kent County Council got taken over by Reform. I mean, I happen to know that meant no meetings happened for a while, no one really turned up, a few people resigned straight away, no one actually knew what anything was. Chaos. What propaganda did they do? It's literally, in come the cameras with great depth of field, they sort of shoot from down, so everyone looks very grandiose. They're standing on a staircase, and Farage comes and stands in front, and he said, I'm making Kent great again. And you're like, ugh. But the point is, people actually believe that then they're doing this amazingly powerful thing. So what we've done next door in these 3 different councils in Sussex, we've got ourselves elected, we've got ourselves into administration. We invest in retrofitting homes, bringing people's bills down, building as much affordable housing as we can. We're building health centres in Wealdon. We're investing in nature restoration. We're taxing, doubling the council tax on second homes so that we can give more people council tax relief. We're actually doing that. Have we told the story? Nope. We've maybe written one newsletter and tried to deliver it around the rural area. Yeah. So come on, that's actually an easy change to make. And if we make that change that we say, vote Green everywhere because this could happen in your local area, because this is what we do. It's it's not too difficult to see how you could improve the communications pretty radically. Zach's showing it at the kind of leadership point. But if you put that all through the party and all those different stories, I think we can make really good headway.
We've I don't know if you were in the room when it was announced in conference, just as of a few hours ago, we've overtaken the Lib Dems in membership. So the Green Party of England Wales now has more members than the Liberal Democrats do across England, Wales and Scotland.
So, I mean, you went from, was it second place nominally, Bristol Central, when you thousands behind Labour. In Bristol now,
So thousands ahead.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and the Greens are second place in lots of seats. Is that the template? You kind of look at Bristol Central, we leapfrogged, but do you have enough campaigners to do that? Because you threw everything at that seat.
That is a fair question, and we are going to have to update and renew our electoral campaigning strategy if we want to really level up for the next general election. Because you're right, we were really open with voters and with journalists that we were targeting 4 seats. We were throwing the kitchen sink at those seats. We were standing candidates all across the country, so everyone had the opportunity to vote Green, but we weren't campaigning much, if at all, in those other constituencies. But then, and honestly for me, aside from getting myself elected, one of my favourite bits of news from that general election was the fact that we came second in an additional 39 seats, most of which we did no campaigning in. So that really shows the potential. But yes, we are clearly going to have to figure out how to campaign more efficiently if we're going to target dozens of seats, at least I hope, at one time.
You're in Parliament, you mill around, how do you describe the atmosphere amongst Labour MPs looking at them?
Well, the kind of the more progressive Labour backbench Labour MPs that I tend to work with, co-propose each other's early day motions and amendments and things like that, most of them are not in a great mood at the moment.
Are they going to defect?
Are they going to defect? I don't know about that, but certainly when I bump into people in the corridor and say, how are you doing, there's been a lot of, I'm okay.
What are you trying to love bomb them to get them to defect?
I'm not going to tell you about every conversation I've had over a coffee with every MP, but I certainly think, if you look at the number of people that have defected from Labour to Greens in terms of councillors and members, and there's even been 1 or 2 former Labour MPs who've done so. So I certainly think there's some potential there.
Is Keir Starmer, though, your best asset? Because if they get rid of him, maybe Labour could claw things back.
Maybe, but I feel like this has been a long time in the making. There's been people that have been feeling increasingly disillusioned and let down by Labour for a long time. So I think for a lot of people, they're heartbroken, Labour's left them, and that's that. I think I just heard my name being called, because I think we have to go and join this red line. So you're welcome to join us.
Yeah, welcome to join the red line.
So the red line, it's 0.5 kilometre long, 1.5 meters wide. When we first unveiled it, it was supposed to be the red line that Israel's not meant to cross. Remember Biden and Rafah? Israel kept crossing it and crossing it and crossing it. So it's now no longer the lines they shouldn't cross. The red line symbolizes every single wrong that Israel has done in the last 77 years. Every child it's killed, every journalist, every medic, every innocent life it's killed. That's what the red line symbolizes. It also symbolizes our strength, our commitment, our belief, our refusal to be quiet in the face of political pressure.
Zach Palazzi is the only Jewish leader of a national political party, and the national political party that is taking the strongest stance against the genocide.
I think the fact that he's Jewish, it's everyone keeps saying it is the Muslims against the Jews. It's got nothing to do with the Muslims and the Jews. Zionism, as we all know, is a political ideology. It's a political ideology that doesn't care how many lives it kills. And the fact that Zach, this very, very Jewish leader, is stepping up and saying, no, that's enough, stop. I think it is important because here we have a Jewish leader saying, okay, this is a genocide. This has got to stop. Israel is doing wrong. This has got to stop. It's important because every single London march, we have a Jewish bloc. And yet the Zionists and the naysayers continue, our mainstream media, continue to ignore the fact that we have massive numbers of Jews on the streets during our national marches. Absolutely. Jews for Palestine. How much louder can you get than that? So the fact that here we have a party leader saying this, a Jewish party leader saying it's immensely important, but I have to say this. How many times have we said, yes, this is it, yes, this is it, and then we find that, there is too much political pressure, too much bowing down to the US for anything we do to make a difference.
So I'm going to speak to Zach Polanski, obviously new leader. What's the pitch? How's it all going? But, little flashback, went to Labour Party conference, they took away my pass, had a few interesting experiences with their leading luminaries. But we spoke to Sir John Curtis, who's the leading pollster in Britain, and he had some pretty interesting things to say about Zach Polanski and his prospects.
If you look at where Labour have been losing votes to, they've lost about 1 in 8 of their 2024 voters to Reform. But the truth is they've also lost 1 in 8 to Liberal Democrats, and they've lost about 1 in 10 to the Greens. Labour's problem isn't just... Reform are the challenge to Labour in terms of seats, but they're not the only challenger in terms of votes. Labour have to think about how they get Liberal Democrat and Green voters back, as well as trying to get Reform voters back. And doing those two things could be quite difficult. The second thing I would then say is that certainly it's not dramatic, but since Polanski became the Greens leader, the party has finally got up to 10%. It's been running at 8-9% for most of this parliament. That is the first time it's been consistently in double digit in the opinion polls in history. But I think the interesting thing about Polanski, and again this is to do with his character and his personality, looks as though he's got a degree of charisma. And of course, one of the things that Keir Starmer doesn't have is charisma. One of the things that Ed Davey doesn't have is charisma. One of the things that Kemi Badenoch doesn't have is charisma. They're all fine, noble ladies and gentlemen, very clever, etc., but they don't have charisma, and that is a disadvantage when you're trying to appeal to the public. Polanski looks as though he might have it. Now, I think it's early days. His early handling of sometimes some quite difficult media interviews was interesting. He is, of course, potentially trying to move his party further to left than already is, and that could cause some tensions with some of the MPs in the party. So, he's got to negotiate that. But I think certainly one to watch, shall we say that. It looks as though he might have a high ability to give an idea of his vision, to actually to reach out to the public and to command their attention. So we see. I think I certainly would say that if one were to choose at the moment, all the leaders, with whom would you think a debate would be most interesting? It would be between Polanski and Farage.
Nigel Farage, Reform. He's, they're surging. They're way ahead. What's your strategy to deal with that? And also, Labour's strategy is very, very clear now, which is it's us or it's them. Do you want Nigel Farage in number 10? You might hate us, and you clearly do if you look at the polling, but you're going to have to vote for us, and they're going to do everything to squeeze you. Lots of people are going to panic. They're going to panic the closer towards the election, and they're going to go, I hate this government, but I'd have to probably leave the country if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister. People think that. Yeah. What do you say to that? And what's the strategy?
For the Green Party, I think our job is to offer an alternative. Reform has surged through the polls with the politics of hate, division and despair. And I think the idea that, just a couple of years ago, if someone said, is Nigel Farage going to surge in the polls? You'd be like, no, he couldn't even win a seat as an MP. Although, you could say he pretty much single-handedly was the primary force behind Brexit. So he was doing things even outside of Parliament. And so we need to still reject, ultimately, the politics of Reform. But I think we do need to look at their playbook and go, if a party can connect with the worries of people, let's not go into the politics of despair, but let's actually connect with people and then put the politics of hope and community. Now, that can't be some abstract, floaty idea, but I don't think it is abstract. That's about a few people in the society control our wealth, our power, and our assets. Those are all political choices. We can make different political choices, and it's time to take them back. And I think as we push that argument, and as we push the argument about changing people's material living, about bringing their bills down, and people know there is a party who is out there batting for them every single day, I'm absolutely convinced there's no reason why the Green Party won't surge in the polls too.
And just finally, your party was good. Jeremy Corbyn, Zara Sultana was going to set up as a new party of the left. Were you secretly a bit delighted when it hasn't gone that well for them? There's been a bit of a bust-up. And what would the relationship be with whatever comes out of it? Because they're ploughing ahead, even though there's been this kerfuffle.
Yeah, I genuinely hate the fact that there's been a bust-up. I think even if I start with the cynical, and I'll get to the much more important, but cynically, this is what people think of the left. And so when this happens, whether you're involved with it or not, I think it just kind of reinforces these ideas. So that's not blaming anyone or pointing fingers. It's just kind of going, I wish this had worked out. More widely, I like Jeremy, I like Zara. I was on a panel just last week with Zara and Faiza Shaheen. And I mean, it was just very obvious that our politics are aligned and we care about the same things. My relentless focus, though, right now is on the party, which is the Green Party. We got nearly 2 million votes. We've got those 39 second place finishes. Just last month, we had 3 defections from the Labour Party embarking to the Green Party. That's 20 that have happened this year, 10 of them in September alone. We just overtook the Lib Dems in membership. So I'd say to anyone who's looking for a political home right now, we do not have time to waste. Like, literally, the shit has hit the fan already. It's not like it's at some distant time in the future. This is the moment we need to do it now, and this is the moment to join the Green Party.
And just very lastly, those 39 seats, how are you going to throw the kitchen sink at them now to win them? Because the Greens came second place without campaigning in those seats. But is the campaigning happening? What's the strategy?
Yeah, it's already starting to happen. So we've just launched a programme called Pathway to Parliament. We're really looking for more global majority candidates, more working class candidates, to make sure, particularly around the north of England and Wales, but everywhere pretty much, that we've got the right candidates, that we're doing things like public speaking training, policy training, just kind of getting people ready for when that election comes. In the constituencies themselves, it's interesting because I'm talking about these second place finishers, but it's important to note that Ellie Chowns, Adrian Ramsey came from 4th or 5th place to 1st place. So actually, when the Green Party goes, we're going to win somewhere, we've got the right campaign message, we've fundraised properly, and money is really important here, we've got the right resourcing and the right ground game, we can win everywhere. What I think has been missing, and it's exactly why I ran for leader, is our air game, and all I mean by that is the media, the way we're communicating. I think the winning combination is when you're on the ground, you're targeting those seats in the way, fair enough, that the Lib Dems do. But the Lib Dems, I mean, I literally couldn't tell you what they stand for. I think it's different things in different seats. And I think where the Green Party are ultimately different, and why we're overtaking the Lib Dems, and why we're on track to bigger success than ever before, is because what we're standing for is really clear, and it's going to be clear and consistent in every single one of those seats. I'm absolutely convinced when you're clear about what you stand for nationally, and you campaign at the local level so they trust their local politician, that's how we're going to win so many more seats.
Now, Labour at the start have basically told people who believe in things like redistributing wealth and power, public ownership, not scapegoating migrants, opposing genocide, they basically said, go stuff yourselves. We don't want you, we don't like you, but also you've got no choice but to vote for us, even though we hate everything that you stand for. The Green Party are coming for those sorts of voters. They're saying, actually, you don't have to suck it up. There is an alternative. And for a long time, though, they've not really had visibility, their message not been that clear. Under Zach Polansky, that has changed. They are now saying we are a clear, distinct left-wing party with a very different alternative to the rest of the political establishment. Will it work? The electoral system's rigged against them, the media's not on their side, they won't give them the sort of attention that Nigel Farage had. But I think they're going to make some big, big gains. We'll see in the May elections next year what that means, but I think Labour should be worried. They're falling apart, no one really likes them at the moment at all. In fact, there's active contempt for them. The question facing the Green Party is, will they win enough support to stop the likes of Nigel Farage and Reform dictating the political conversation and therefore winning by default? That's the big challenge facing them. And in the coming months and years, we're going to find out the answer. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts and your comments. Love to hear all your thoughts about what's going on in politics. Share the video, I'll speak to you in a bit.